In a city of towering ambition, a young man presents his life's work. He knows the polite smiles and the empty words. The meeting ends with a familiar, hollow promise. He stands before the exit, another door closed, wondering why it's so hard to leave a mark. The story takes us to Arcadian City University, where our boy Claude is lost in his own world. The crowd roars with excitement for the game, all for the star player stepping up to the plate. But Claude isn't just watching, he's analyzing. The pitcher winds up and lets it fly. The star player swings with everything he's got, sending the ball sailing out of the park. And just like that, Arcadian wins the game. The hero of the hour thanks Claude for the tip. But our boy's own meeting was another letdown. His friend offers a bit of hopeful advice. Suddenly, a group of girls are calling out for Claude. Guess being friends with the star player has its perks. Elsewhere, a lone observer walks the sunlit streets. Our boy scrolls through his phone, a fond smile on his face, seeing his friend Claude enjoying his newfound fame. He scoffs at Claude's main character complex, when suddenly his vision shatters. A voice echoes through a new reality, declaring it has found its hero. He's thrown into a digital world, utterly bewildered. Just your standard everyday cosmic job offer. His eyes glow as he's told this is a saga of life and death. And just like that, he's back, with a single mission: survive. All the world's a stage, and a system descends to choose its players. 500 systems, 500 champions. But in this grand tournament, only one can be the victor. For those whose legends are already written, this is merely a sport to prove their glory. But for those risking everything for their system's whims, it's a much more personal and frankly unfair affair. They fight for only one reason. It's neither for glory nor for fortune. It's a battle of pure instinct, not for the thrill of the fight or the joy of victory. It's all about one simple, brutal truth: survival. The systems command their chosen players, and our boy, the observer, is already calling the shots, while Claude, ever the analyst, prepares to support his new ally. Together, they're told to write their own legend, in a chaotic free-for-all where everyone is a target. The quest begins, and the stage is officially set. A mysterious storyteller watches from the shadows, certain that this tragedy will be a hit. The scene shifts to the aptly named Saga Apartments. He slams the door shut, carrying his friend to safety. He sets his friend down, announcing they're finally home. But his friend is terrified, demanding answers. He secures the door, insisting he's just as confused. An answer that does little to calm his friend's fears. He kneels down, trying to calm his friend Avon, offering hot chocolate for their post-near-death experience. He offers the drink, insisting he's just as confused. But Claude isn't buying it, searching for the truth. The two friends sit in a tense, quiet moment. Avon finally breaks the silence with a strange question. He recalls the moment it all began, a blur of unreality. One moment he was on the field, the next chosen by the system. It told him someone he cared for was being hunted, and he feared that person was Claude. He's just thankful he made it in time to save them both. As he hopes for answers, he realizes Claude got the same memo. Avon insists the systems owe them an explanation, but Claude knows they can only wait and see. And so the night deepens over the city. Elsewhere, our observer waits with bated breath, when a dramatic entrance shatters the silence. A figure introduces himself as William Shakespeare. He declares himself the boy's sponsor for this grand, deadly play. Our boy recognizes him from the cosmic job offer, and struggles to place the name. Shakespeare, the writer guy? A question that deeply offends the legendary bard. The bard expresses his deep disappointment in Avon's lack of culture. But Avon has a more pressing historical question. Shakespeare confirms his demise in the most theatrical way possible. Our boy can't help but notice the man's colossal ego. But the performance is over for now. He claims he's been watching Avon this whole time. And Avon cuts straight to the point, demanding answers. His normal day was interrupted by a dead writer, and this whole confusing system business. And so Shakespeare prepares to explain it all bluntly. Shakespeare lays it out plainly for Avon. He's been chosen for a real-life death game. Our boy is understandably horrified. The bard continues, painting a grand picture of 500 players fighting for the spotlight. The weight of it all begins to crush him. This isn't a game. People are going to die. He's terrified of dying before he's even lived. But Shakespeare extends a hand, vowing to help. He warns that standing still is a death sentence. Shakespeare offers a choice: accept his terms and fight. But Avon protests, claiming he's no warrior. The bard insists he's more important than he knows, and drops a bombshell. If he refuses, Claude will die. He explains that only Avon can save his friend, posing the question one last time, for himself and for Claude. With his friend's life on the line, Avon makes his choice. Now that the deal is struck, it's time to learn the rules. After all, Shakespeare reminds him with a grin, it's his life on the line. Avon, however, is done with the theatrics. Shakespeare snaps his fingers, pleased with Avon's decision. He begins to explain the grand stage, where 500 players, backed by legendary figures, must fight to be the last one standing. And the penalty for failure is, of course, death. But Avon has a question, which the bard happily allows. He wants to know how his first opponent had such strange powers. Shakespeare praises his observation with a rather cheesy pose. He explains that the systems are the legacies of historical figures like his own. The man Avon fought was contracted to the Whitechapel Reaper, better known as Jack the Ripper, a revelation that leaves our boy absolutely horrified. Shakespeare is personally offended that Avon is more impressed by a common criminal. He explains that the system's contract bonds them together, allowing him to grant Avon power if he proves himself worthy. A very valid question which the bard seems unprepared for. Shakespeare reminds him of the illusion that saved his life, a power to manipulate the line between fiction and reality. He presents Avon with a glowing tome, his reward for surviving. Our boy is less than thrilled, wondering how a book is supposed to help him. The bard strikes another pose, declaring that Avon now controls fiction itself. The book is a catalyst, able to summon anything he can imagine. He urges Avon to test out his legacy for himself. As a glowing quill materializes in our boy's hand, a sudden burst of creative energy erupts from the book. Shakespeare smirks, curious about Avon's very first creation. Our boy stares in disbelief at the figure standing before him. It's a phantom of his friend, Claude, reaching out a hand. The creation even talks and acts just like the real thing. Shakespeare is impressed, and let's be honest, a little smug about it. He admits Avon is far more compatible with this power than he'd thought. But with a snap of his fingers, the lesson is over. Shakespeare offers one last chance for questions before making his grand exit. But Avon stops him, needing just 2 more answers. He asks about the game master behind this entire ordeal, only to be met with a swift and blunt refusal. The bard laments that a true storyteller never spoils the ending. He tells Avon to be patient, so our boy moves on to his next question. Shakespeare teases him about missing him already, which Avon strongly denies. The bard explains that since he's passed the first trial, he can now summon him for help. Their contract connects them, allowing Shakespeare to appear whenever he's needed. He assures Avon that they're a team now, and his victory is also Shakespeare's. With a final dramatic flourish, Shakespeare bids his protagonist farewell. Meanwhile, Claude is having a much less theatrical morning. He reveals his sponsor was none other than the legendary Achilles, a fact Claude finds incredibly unfair, given his own sponsor. But there's no time for complaints, as Avon senses the next round is starting. And right on cue, a system window pops up, announcing the start. Their new mission, a grand quest to capture an enemy base. Simple enough, right? The only instructions are to assemble a team and survive. Claude points out a flaw in the plan. They're the attacking team, but have no idea where the enemy base is. Shakespeare's spirit phases through the wall, praising Avon's astute question. He explains that the system is a test of both brain and brawn. The only rule that truly matters is to win. With a final, dramatic flourish, he sends them on their way. The elevator doors slide shut, and our boys prepare for the fight. They step out into a new arena, where Achilles has a message for Claude. The legendary warrior tosses him a parting gift with a heavy thud. Claude is surprised to find himself holding a large, golden shield. Achilles declares that his task for the day is to become a leader, and warns him to show the legendary item the proper respect. Achilles explains that the shield harnesses the power of the Styx, a power that can only be unlocked by a true leader. He gives Claude a final, intense warning to impress him, or he'll be left to face the other players completely on his own. And with that last bit of encouragement, the legendary warrior vanishes. Avon considers the shield's purpose, while Claude just wishes it came with an instruction manual. They set off to find teammates, figuring other players must be nearby. Their strategy is to make themselves obvious targets and wait. The peaceful park setting seems to mock their tense situation, and Claude is already visibly bored with the waiting part of the plan. Suddenly, a new player with intense red eyes appears. He seems to be listening in on a nearby couple's picnic troubles. The culprit has left some rather large paw prints in the grass. Claude asks if he's found someone, but the stranger has found something far more interesting. Meanwhile, Avon follows a rustling sound into the nearby bushes. He discovers a small fiery creature, which is apparently a very serious crime in this park. The strange animal, wreathed in flames, makes a run for it. As Avon gives chase, Claude can only watch in confusion. Our boy wonders if an animal can even be a player in this twisted game. He leaps over a hedge, determined to find out. The red-eyed player, Christopher, is suddenly on the defensive. His opponent's weapon of choice? A teddy bear. A young boy with piercing eyes announces his arrival, and with him, a pack of fiery shadow beasts. Claude emerges from the bushes, utterly confused. But Christopher is already taking charge of the situation. The boy gives the order and his pets attack. A flaming beast lunges, met by a golden shield. Christopher finds himself surrounded by the monstrous pack and braces as he blocks another powerful strike. Christopher cries out as the beast closes in. Its fiery jaws clash against the golden shield. But Avon has already seen enough. He taps into his newfound power, writing a new reality into existence. Shakespeare's voice echoes, urging him to hurry. With a flick of his quill, a dark fog descends. The decoy Claude sprints away, drawing their fire. A beast lunges, taking the bait completely, and the phantom is torn apart in an instant. With the decoy gone, Claude braces for the real attack. The impact sends a massive shockwave through the area. The young boy panics, yelling for his beast to defend their base. He believes he has the upper hand, tying up two defenders. But Christopher calmly corrects his assumption. He tries to de-escalate, explaining they're not the enemy. The kid is understandably wary of a trick, so Christopher offers to show him his system quest as proof. He explains they're both on the attacking team, and both equally clueless. The boy finally smiles, introducing himself as Alex. Christopher and Alex look up as a bird circles above the fence. A hawk swoops down with a piercing cry. The view pulls back, revealing a massive, empty stadium. The newly formed team carefully makes its way through the stands. Claude points to the field, noting two figures who don't seem to be allies. On the field, two archers face off, one taunting the other with her confidence. The blonde archer draws her bow, eager for a fight. Avon notes they both seem powerful, while Claude is wary of the blonde archer. Her purple eyes glow with a dangerous intensity, but her opponent vanishes in a swirl of dark energy, promising to return. Avon cries out a warning as a new player lunges at Claude, but Claude reacts instantly, blocking the daggers with his shield. The attacker lands gracefully, declaring she's found her targets. Avon realizes the archer must have swapped places with an unseen ally. Christopher asks Alex if his beasts can track their opponent's power. Alex agrees, summoning one of his fiery hounds. The creature's eyes glow as it prepares to hunt. It finds its target, a man in Roman attire who seems very annoyed. The dagger-wielding woman confirms the beast found her ally. Meanwhile, the blonde archer reappears, annoyed at her team's incompetence. The blonde archer calls for aid from an ally named Mulan. Lily, the dagger wielder, realizes she's in deep trouble. Avon sees the perfect distraction and tells his team to run, but a new team storms the field, vowing that Lily will not survive the day. The blonde archer, clearly annoyed, prepares to fight them all. Her arrow of light collides with a blast from the dark archer. She furiously summons another ally to the fight, who lands with a ground-shaking impact. The two archers clash in a flurry of deadly strikes, while the horseback warrior charges straight for a terrified Alex. A new player in Egyptian attire is caught completely off guard, as one of Alex's fiery beasts attacks her wolf-like companion. She's thrown back by the sheer force of the blow, crying out for help. But a red-haired man in a toga swoops in to save the day. He calls out a name, preparing to unleash his own power, an ability he calls debauchery. Real subtle, my guy. The Egyptian woman seizes the opening, lunging forward with her blade, and slices clean through the shadow creature. Elsewhere, Alex hides behind a wall, desperately trying to find his pets. As one of his beasts stalks the stadium, its eyes glowing with intent. The blonde archer brings her heel down on the fiery beast and sends it flying with a powerful swing of her bow. Her Roman ally taunts her for fighting like a child, but he's interrupted by Lily, who appears behind him in a glitchy flash. Christopher dives in, shielding the blonde archer from the attack. She glares, furious at the interruption, and screams at a terrified Alex to stay out of her way. Someone's clearly not a team player. With both enemies now in front of her, she decides to test out a new power given to her by Mulan. The Roman fighter braces himself for the inevitable chaos. Lily lunges forward, daggers at the ready. The blonde archer focuses her power, gems glowing with malice. She unleashes a devastating volley of energy blasts. Her Roman ally is caught in the indiscriminate attack. Lily is struck head-on, her body glitching violently. Watching from the sidelines, Claude has a sudden realization. He wonders if a weapon from one system can harm another. The archer moves in for the final blow, mocking her fallen opponent. Lily is engulfed in a blinding flash of destructive power. But at the last second, a golden chariot swoops in for the rescue. The Egyptian woman is stunned as her ride is suddenly hijacked. Her Roman ally is unceremoniously tossed from the moving vehicle, and Avon smirks, confirming it was all his doing. Claude watches as the chariot whisks Lily and her rescuer away. The Roman is left behind, furious that his toga has been ruined, but the blonde archer isn't letting him get away that easily. She thanks her new temporary teammates for their help, but quickly reminds them this alliance is strictly business. A system window declares the quest complete, with the attackers victorious. The unlikely team stands together, wondering what comes next. The stadium field glitches, a dark void beneath the grass, and the victors stand together, an uneasy alliance at best. A system window rewards them with access to a testing facility. The blonde archer is clearly thrilled about the forced teamwork, but Christopher tries to rally them to claim their prize. The newly formed team heads towards the strange portal. They step into a luxurious lounge, their reward for survival. Claude strikes a dramatic pose, much to Avon's confusion. Soon, Christopher is in a training sim, testing his strength. He blocks a blow, his shield absorbing a strange digital energy. Elsewhere in the lounge, Alex takes a quiet moment to himself. The blonde archer, however, is all business as Claude approaches her. She senses his hesitation and tells him to just ask his questions. He asks about the system points they earned, offering to trade info. She explains that while any weapon can kill a player, only system-specific items can truly damage another system's power. These points are tied to their sponsor's fame, a currency of legacy. Some sponsors play it safe, conserving their power for the long game, but others go all in on their champion, spending immense points to even manifest and fight alongside them. Avon thanks the archer for the information she shared, but she's already figured it out, deducing his sponsor is Shakespeare. Meanwhile, Claude's training session is a bit more aggressive. Achilles refuses to teach the shield's magic until its physical form is mastered, a lesson that leaves Claude completely drained and frustrated. Back in the lounge, Avon asks about her history with the Dark Archer. She smirks, chalking it up to a simple workplace rivalry, a fact that has Avon understandably concerned for the future. Suddenly, a new system notification flashes across the city. It announces a bonus for the survivors of losing teams, and for the losers, this bonus is a chance for a comeback. The Egyptian woman realizes this a second too late. She barely has time to grip her sword, as her former Roman ally turns on her without hesitation. A brutal strike sends her flying, a lesson in trusting no one. And a new quest flashes into existence for all to see. The victors watch as the game changes once again. Below them, the stadium entrance is already a war zone, as a flood of desperate players rushes towards the high ground. Christopher takes charge, ordering his team to prepare for the onslaught. The blonde archer and Alex stand ready, an unlikely and very annoyed duo. Below them, the battle is already a chaotic blur of steel and energy. An explosion rips through the crowd, sending silhouettes flying. Christopher and his opponent share a look of mutual shock, as a massive blast of purple energy tears through the battlefield. From their perch, the archer and Alex watch the next wave of players charge. A whole new team leaps into the fight. Guess the party's just getting started. The blonde archer doesn't hesitate, drawing an arrow of pure power. Her shot strikes one of the attackers square in the chest. But his allies are undeterred, rallying their forces for another push. The blonde archer and Alex stand together, an unlikely duo ready for the fight. Elsewhere, a red-haired woman blocks a powerful blow from another player. The attacker charges, channeling the power of his helmeted sponsor. The sponsor roars with all the subtlety of a freight train. Alex calls for Christopher as one of his beasts lunges into the fray. The fiery creature clashes with the helmeted warrior. His champion grits his teeth, bracing for the beast's attack. The shadow creature roars, overwhelming him with its raw power. The blonde archer takes cover, knowing she can't let her opponent get a clean shot. She narrowly dodges a blast of energy that zips past her head. The blonde archer focuses her power into a single glowing gem. She's a mobile fortress, firing a volley of shots while airborne. She prepares another arrow, her focus absolute. But a sudden attack forces her to dive for cover. Her opponent, a red-haired archer, draws her own bow, bloodied but not broken. The blonde archer feels the pressure mounting, but a manic grin spreads across her face as she finds her opening. She unleashes a devastating rain of energy from above. A look of pure satisfaction, clearly holding a grudge. Elsewhere, another player learns that Alex's pets are not to be trifled with. Christopher calls out as Alex leaps into the fray. The blonde archer, Lily, orders him to recall his beast. The boy panics, quickly agreeing to her command. Suddenly, the masked warrior is caught in a volley of spikes. The sharp projectiles pierce his back in a brutal ambush. His champion can only watch in horror as his sponsor falls. Lily declares the fight over, telling him to go home. So much for sportsmanship. But a new challenger with bladed shoes steps onto the scene. Alex asks if she's all right, but Lily coldly states she's better off than the losers. A dark, unsettling power begins to stir from the shadows. Avon tries to warn Claude as he blocks a vicious attack. Suddenly, a massive shadowy appendage erupts from the ground. It snatches Avon, dragging him into the darkness. Claude can only scream his friend's name in horror. He struggles to hold back the creature's immense power. He roars at the monster as its tendrils close in around him. The new player mocks him, confident in his stupid squid. From the sidelines, Achilles seems unimpressed with the new challenger. The massive beast looms over Claude, ready to crush him completely. As a strange energy envelops him, Claude realizes he's outmatched. The monster's eyes glare down, a crushing weight from above. Avon is caught in the creature's grasp, completely helpless. He's tossed aside like a rag doll, landing hard in the dirt. With a bloodied hand, he struggles to get back up. Suddenly, Shakespeare appears in a glitchy haze, telling him to stay put. He reminds Avon that his power is useless without his book, a minor design flaw, really, and warns him not to waste this single opportunity to save his friend. Meanwhile, Claude is at his limit, his eyes glowing with defiance. The ground shatters under the immense pressure of the attack. Achilles materializes beside him, warning that one wrong move means death. Achilles admits he may have been too harsh on Claude. Deciding it's time for a little hands-on tutoring, he propels Claude forward with legendary speed, straight into the heart of the monster's grasp. Claude cries out, struggling against the immense pressure. But the golden shield flies in, deflecting the creature's attacks, ricocheting off the tendrils to create an opening. Achilles orders him to aim for the face, while Shakespeare tells Avon it's his turn to act, and Claude unleashes a furious high-speed swing. The enemy player orders his beast to crush them all. But Avon's power erupts from the ground below, sending the monster's master flying. He scrambles across the creature's back to regain his footing. Achilles demonstrates how to use the shield as a weapon, a lesson Claude quickly puts into practice. The golden shield becomes a deadly projectile, as Achilles tells him to take a leap of faith. The two champions leap into a mid-air clash. He spots the monster's core, now completely exposed. Claude scrambles up the massive beast, closing the distance. Its master mocks him, confident in his high ground. But Claude calmly states he won't need to fight him directly. He's going to show him a vision, a classic show and tell. The shield reflects the monster's terrifying gaze. As Claude leaps into the air, a golden projectile, the enemy player recoils, hit by a sudden psychic blow. He sees through Claude's eyes, a terrifying realization dawning, a chaotic vision of his own sponsor's monstrous power. And with the enemy distracted, Claude flies straight for the core. The monster's master laughs as another player is caught in the chaos. Elsewhere, the blonde archer sends a new opponent flying, only for him to be caught by one of Alex's shadow beasts. The player, Christopher, is understandably confused by his fuzzy landing pad. He sits on the defeated creature as the team regroups. Christopher notes that Achilles' intervention was a huge gamble, a risk the immortal warrior was more than willing to take. And just like that, a system window declares the event is over. Christopher congratulates his new, battered teammates. Their reward? A less than stellar 58th place ranking. Claude can't believe their ranking, shouting in disbelief. Avon argues they were one of the strongest teams out there. Lily dismisses the results while Alex worries they've lost. But the system reveals their fate is far from over. Suddenly, Alex begins to glitch out of existence. Lily tells the others to survive, just so she can beat them later. Such a heartwarming sentiment. The rest of the team is scattered by the system's command. Avon finds himself alone, wondering if he's back to square one. But a familiar theatrical voice tells him he's not. Avon cuts to the chase, demanding to know what this gauntlet is. Shakespeare explains it's a simple one-on-one gladiatorial fight to the death, a brutal method the system uses to cull the herd. Elsewhere, Lily slams her fist into the ground in pure rage. She curses herself for ever trusting those college kids. She draws her blade, demanding answers from her sponsor, Mulan. But her power fades as she asks why Mulan won't manifest. Her usual confidence is replaced by pure desperation. Her bow lies inert on the ground before her. She wonders why her sponsor no longer believes in her. Guess the bad attitude finally caught up with her. A voice from the shadows agrees she shouldn't have been picked. A voice from the shadows asks why she was such a poor choice. She admits that she failed her entire team. She assumes the legendary warrior Mulan knows nothing of failure, an assumption that strikes a nerve with the legendary hero. Mulan removes her helmet, revealing the face of a woman who knows loss all too well. She tells the story of the war and her refusal to fight, a choice that led her dearest friend to fight and die in her stead. The very weapon now carried by Lily is a constant reminder of Mulan's greatest failure. She comforts the girl, sharing the weight of her own tragic past. Meanwhile, Achilles gives Claude a similar heart-to-heart. He clarifies that he didn't choose Claude for his resemblance to him, but because he saw a warrior who could surpass even his own legend. No pressure, kid. Elsewhere, Alex calls out for his own sponsor. His teddy bear glows with a strange, digital energy as a figure materializes from the light. But the man who appears denies knowing that name. He praises Alex for how far he's come and prepares him for the challenge that lies ahead. Alex is stunned, realizing this isn't the sponsor he was expecting. He admits he was never who Alex thought he was. He introduces himself as none other than Theodore Roosevelt, a historical flex that goes right over the kid's head. Roosevelt admits he was hesitant about his champion at first, but for now, they must focus on their own fight. He explains that a hunter's instinct can solve any problem, and Alex is ready to learn how to take the shot. All the former president asks for is the boy's trust. A bond is formed as Alex puts his faith in his sponsor. And with that, the legendary hunter prepares for the gauntlet. Roosevelt tells Alex that the time has come. A massive, ominous door materializes before them. Alex steps through, asking his bear where they've ended up. But his sponsor is gone, leaving him utterly alone. A new voice echoes through the darkness, mocking his companion. A well-dressed man with a massive axe offers a lesson on big sticks. Subtle. He smirks, offering to reveal his own legendary sponsor. But Alex is already on the defensive, summoning a shadow beast as his opponent asks if he's ever heard of Vlad the Impaler, bringing his axe down with brutal force. Alex can only watch in horror as his creature is viciously struck down. Alex realizes he needs a new strategy, one that can close the distance. He summons a fiery mountain lion, ordering it to charge. But the beast is instantly caught in a massive spider web. As a monstrous spider descends to claim its prize, Alex is stunned, realizing his main attacker is already out of the fight. He's forced to dodge a forest of deadly spikes erupting from the ground, only to be met by a brutal swing from his opponent's axe. The massive blade pins him down as the man looms over him. But Alex remembers Roosevelt's words, clinging to that final instruction: trust him. Suddenly, a glowing blue lantern materializes out of thin air. The axe wielder brings his weapon down with terrifying force, but Alex reaches for the lantern, putting his faith in his sponsor. His opponent can only curse as the attack is stopped. Alex's hand closes around the strange new weapon. He calls out, activating the lantern's hidden power. A voice responds as the lantern transforms in a flash of light, and Roosevelt himself materializes, taking aim with his rifle. He fires, shattering the glass of his own creation. A rather aggressive way to turn on a light, unleashing a wave of energy that engulfs his opponent. The man is trapped, crying out as the ground itself turns against him. The axe wielder is impaled by a forest of fiery spikes. He's engulfed in a vortex of dark, chaotic energy, as the monstrous spider reveals its true, terrifying form. But Roosevelt is already taking the final shot. He offers Alex a crucial lesson: never underestimate a cornered foe. Alex thanks his sponsor, still calling him Mr. Teddy. Elsewhere, another gauntlet fight rages on. Christopher grits his teeth, trying to turn the tide. In yet another arena, a swordsman lunges with a manic grin, only to be blocked by an unseen opponent's shield. The swordsman brings his blade down with blinding speed, but Christopher meets it with his shield, a strange memory surfacing. His opponent is confused by the sudden change in demeanor. Christopher recalls his days hitting baseballs, a fire in his eyes. He swings his shield like a bat, a powerful clang echoing through the arena. Comparing the man's sword to a cheap metal bat. Ouch, that's gotta sting. The impact is immense, a shockwave of pure force, and the swordsman's weapon is sent flying from his grip. Christopher remembers the sting of a bad hit, channeling that frustration. He lands a final, decisive blow, surprised by his own victory. Claude calls out to his sponsor, announcing his victory. He looks around, wondering where the legendary warrior is. Achilles finally appears, telling him to quiet his fear. He claims a demigod feels no fear. A likely story. The scene shifts to a memory of another, fiercer battle, where Achilles fought in the name of a fallen friend. A clash between two legendary figures. Their battle shakes the very ground they stand on. The enemy king brings his sword down for the final blow, but it shatters against the demigod's invincible skin. Achilles presses his advantage against the armored king, but even his legendary strength can't pierce the man's armor. The king roars, pushing back with everything he has, until his own weapon snaps from the sheer force of the clash. He can only curse his opponent as Achilles moves in. Claude watches the memory, realizing the tedious strategy required. Achilles unleashes a blindingly fast strike, a blur of motion aimed at the armor's seams. The two legends clash in a devastating dance of destruction, and Achilles finally lands a clean hit, piercing the king's guard. Claude realizes the strategy. Attack the harness straps. The king's armor shatters under the precise assault. Achilles notes that his opponent's power is fading fast. He tells the king to use whatever tricks he has left. The king responds with a massive, sweeping strike, a blow that Achilles blocks with his own body. Because of course he does. The demigod presses his advantage, spear at the ready. He lunges forward with a powerful, lightning-fast thrust. The king dodges, but Achilles is already swinging again, sending his opponent flying back in a burst of energy. The king roars in frustration, demanding his foe appear. He's sent flying, still searching for his invisible enemy. Suddenly, Achilles is there, landing a brutal punch. The blow connects with devastating, ground-shaking force. The king accuses him of hiding behind his invincibility, but Achilles' expression is one of pure, focused resolve. The king screams that he's unworthy of his power, as Achilles easily evades another clumsy swing. The demigod hurls his spear with deadly precision, pinning the king's shadow to the very ground he stands on. The king is finally defeated, trapped by his own shadow. Achilles declares that he is worthy of his fallen foe's legacy. Back in the present, Claude celebrates his sponsor's victory. Achilles confirms he's absorbed the enemy's remaining power, but he admits that both of them were nearly spent anyway, a statement that leaves Claude completely confused. Achilles explains the true cost of victory, erasing his own legend. Elsewhere, Lily floats alone in a digital arena. She clenches her fist, realizing she was a fool to expect any help. She resigns herself to the fact that the odds were always stacked against her. She knows she'll have to put on a performance, one that is simply undeniable. Meanwhile, Avon steps through his own portal into a grand hall. He finds himself on the stage of the Globe Theater, a place he'd rather avoid. He explains he wants his work to be famous, not his face. It's not about being important, but about doing something that matters. A new voice asks if he truly wants to make an impact. His opponent, an old man in a wheelchair, calls their meeting fate. He introduces himself as Trey and gives Avon a simple, grim task: kill him. Our boy is stunned as Shakespeare warns him this could be a trap. Avon refuses to fall for what he believes is a trick. The old man reveals his sponsor is the Roman emperor, Marcus Aurelius. He insists they pose no threat and have no way to fight, knowing they'd stand no chance against the warriors in later rounds. All he asks for is a simple conversation before Avon strikes him down. Our boy is confused, sensing the man isn't lying. But first he demands to know what that scroll is. It's the gladiatorial records, a power that reveals every sponsor they've defeated. With that explained, he asks to continue his speech, and a wary Avon tells him to proceed. He explains that the system Royale is a game of death, where a sponsor dooms their player by choosing them. 499 people are destined to die, all for the whims of the sponsors, a cycle that repeats every decade, a brutal, endless clash of legacies and lives. But when Aurelius chose him, he revealed a way to end it all. Using the scroll and the help of reasonable players, they can record the powers of every sponsor. With the right champion, this list could guarantee a future victory for Aurelius, a power that could finally erase the murderers and narcissists from the game. After all, who better to entrust history to than a philosopher king? But before Avon kills him, he has just 2 questions, starting with the sponsors Avon has already faced. The old man asks his final question: what is Shakespeare's power? He insists that sharing this information is Avon's part to play, his chance to finally make a real impact on this world. And Avon is completely convinced, calling the plan genius. He prepares to reveal the secret of his sponsor's legacy. But Shakespeare appears, declaring the conversation is over. He tells Avon it's time to proceed to the next round. The stage splits, separating the 2 players and their sponsors. Trey cries out as his quill begins to glitch and fade away. The gladiatorial records themselves are dissolving into nothing. Trey is stunned, realizing Shakespeare has never manifested before, a fact that Avon finds very, very interesting. But Shakespeare is unimpressed by the old man's performance. He looms over Trey, promising only death and silence. Suddenly, Avon screams at his own sponsor to stop. He reminds the bard that he was chosen for a reason, and asks if Shakespeare truly doubts his ability to win. With a new fire in his eyes, he demands his weapon. The bard smiles, pleased that his protagonist has found his voice. He presents the tome, telling Avon to make his move. Avon's eyes glow as he offers to tell the old man everything he wants to know. But he has one simple condition. He wants a copy of the gladiatorial records for himself. But the philosopher king, Aurelius, flatly refuses, an answer his champion Trey angrily echoes. So much for stoicism. Shakespeare simply smirks as if this was all part of the plan. With the negotiations over, Avon prepares to make his own move. He realizes a crucial rule: only a sponsor can destroy another's power. And Trey's precious scroll is just a piece of paper on Shakespeare's stage. And just like that, the entire theater goes up in flames. Avon asks a very pointed question about who will succumb to the flames first.
He channels his power through the glowing tome,
Rewriting his own reality to fit the situation, and emerges in full firefighter gear. Talk about dressing for the occasion. He makes one final offer to the old man, an offer that is met with pure, unadulterated rage. Elsewhere, another gauntlet match ends with both players defeated. But Lily has survived her own trial, finding Alex and his sponsor waiting. The boy waves, happy to see a familiar face. He's just glad that she managed to make it through. Lily acknowledges Alex's survival with a rare, genuine smile. Elsewhere, Claude is training relentlessly. When Lily finds him, questioning his new regimen, he's determined to grow stronger on his own. He admits he had to look up his own sponsor, and shows her how the search results have changed. From millions of hits down to just 50,000. As sponsors are defeated, their legends begin to fade. The team is finally reunited, looking up at Avon, who offers them a new tool for the battles ahead. He reveals a list of nearly every sponsor left in the game, their path to victory, which he tells them to memorize. The team is stunned to see it's real, even listing their own sponsors. Alex reads their names aloud, confirming their identities. He's also just now learning that Mulan was a real person, a valuable history lesson. Lily warns him to handle the precious document with care. Claude asks what it cost him, and Avon says he did what they all did. The team looks on, sensing there's more to the story. Avon admits with a chilling smile that he killed someone for it, but Claude glares back, angry at how proud he seems to be. Avon declares they've moved past mere survival, and now have a clear path to victory. He challenges Claude to offer a better idea if he has one. Claude reluctantly agrees to the plan, but warns that when Avon's confidence gets him in trouble, he'll be there to clean up the mess. Lily cuts in with a practical concern. What happens to the scroll if one of them dies? Avon suggests they can just keep it here for now, a truly foolproof plan. He explains that since it's a copy, destroying it just sends it back to the original owner. Claude points out the obvious flaw. The team they stole it from knows all about it. Alex chimes in, noting that one of the other players was missing from the last event. Lily figures she must have tried her luck in the gauntlet, adding that she never seemed like a team player anyway. Christopher declares that Philomena will be their next target. Lily smirks, already knowing exactly where she'll be. The scene shifts to a glittering high-rise at night. As an elevator announces their arrival on the 46th floor, a new ally questions their complete lack of street smarts. Avon admits he doesn't really get out much, and Christopher just smirks, claiming he never gets carded. Of course he doesn't. Their guide sighs, telling them to just act natural. The group heads into an exclusive bar and lounge, where a new player immediately tries to buy their guide a drink. Lily plays along with a confident smirk. She lets the man try his luck, claiming she's new in town. Meanwhile, Avon complains about his drink, but Christopher reminds him they're on a mission. He's already spotted their target, Philomena, alone on the balcony. Christopher makes his approach, asking what she's drinking. She answers coolly, her press pass on full display. He asks to join her, calling her the most interesting person there. A classic, if unoriginal, pickup line. She meets his gaze with a challenging stare, before returning the compliment with a wide, unsettling grin. The two players size each other up, a silent challenge passing between them. But Philomena has other plans, dragging Christopher over the edge, and plunging them both into a high-speed dive toward the street. Avon screams for Claude to stop, as his friend leaps off the balcony right after them. Inside, the bar erupts into absolute chaos, but Avon is already rewriting the script with his glowing tome. A massive shockwave rips through the air below. Christopher is thrown back, shielding himself from the blast. He lands hard, bruised, but thankfully in one piece. Mostly, his first thought is to find Alex and retrieve his shield. Christopher races up the stairs, complaining about the cardio. Back in the bar, a new player attacks a terrified bystander. The man throws his hands up, insisting it's a misunderstanding. But he's saved by another player who lunges at the attacker. The aggressor smirks, realizing he's been fighting a decoy. The illusion shatters, leaving the woman standing alone. Meanwhile, Christopher finally reaches Alex in the stairwell. But they're not alone, as the real enemy appears above them. He leaps down, weapon drawn, aiming for Christopher's head, who just barely gets his shield up in time to block the blow. Christopher realizes their target is teleporting between them and the others. Talk about an unfair commute. He tells Alex to stay on his guard and be ready to summon. A confident grin spreads across his face as he forms a plan. Elsewhere, a new player in red unleashes a flurry of strikes. He faces off against a familiar, purple-eyed opponent. Lily meets his attack with a cold, focused glare. The two are locked in a fierce, close-quarters battle. She's caught off guard as a strange power erupts from his hand. Back in the stairwell, that same dark energy engulfs their attacker as Alex's beast lunges. Christopher praises the boy for tracking their enemy down. The attacker's eyes glow with a dark, chaotic energy. Lily meets his gaze, her own power swirling around her. The two players clash in a flurry of brutal strikes. Lily holds her ground, her expression unyielding. She glares back, refusing to give a single inch. Her opponent presses the attack, his face a mask of fury. But the bystander from before jumps between them, pleading for them to stop. The attacker tells him to calm down, insisting they're not here to kill him. He points out that the man never trusted his last team to win, but this new alliance has a real path to victory. The man scoffs, asking if he's being taken hostage, but the attacker clarifies they want him to fight with them. The scene shifts to a new morning over the city, where the man is now tied to a chair, being shown their path to victory. A very persuasive recruitment technique. Avon presents the scroll, a list of every sponsor's powers. He offers the man a chance to see for himself. Lily watches the exchange with a cold, calculating gaze. The man is stunned to find his own sponsor, Brutus, on the list. He reads the details of the power, the ability to swap places. He laughs, calling it a cheat as his press pass is torn in two. The team can only stare in shock at this sudden turn. Lily immediately turns on Philomena, dagger at the ready. But Avon steps in, telling her to stand down. He points to the floor where the torn pass has transformed. The small creature dissolves into a puff of smoke. Avon smirks, asking if they really thought he wasn't prepared. Their new captive tries to negotiate his release, a classic villain move. Avon considers the offer and calmly agrees. The man smirks as he's untied, though Lily keeps a close watch. He stretches his arms, clearly enjoying his newfound freedom. Philomena admits the scroll was a tempting offer. Lily reminds her she should be grateful to be alive. But Philomena smirks, insisting they're the ones who need her. Claude agrees, explaining that with their strong sponsors, her power could make them truly unstoppable. She'll join, but only if she and Lily fight to the death at the end. Claude asks Lily if she's willing to accept those terms. Lily reluctantly agrees to a duel after the final round. A chance, she adds, to finally get rid of her new rival. So much for team bonding. With the deal struck, Philomena changes the subject to their prize. Philomena says she's ready for a nap. As the new team walks together, Alex introduces himself. She greets him with a less than flattering nickname. How sweet. Suddenly, the ground begins to shake violently. The team is caught off guard by the sudden tremor. The street cracks and collapses beneath their feet. Avon checks to see if his teammates are unharmed. The others confirm they've survived the chaos. Alex, ever the optimist, gives a cheerful thumbs up. But Avon knows this can only mean one thing. A new system window flashes into existence, announcing an urgent mission. Their task is simple: save as many civilians as possible. But Avon realizes there's a very big problem with that plan. In a city this destroyed, there's no one left to save. The team can only stare out at the burning, empty ruins. Claude asks if Avon's book can at least put out the fires. But Avon explains his power only works on things inside the system. Alex offers to summon a creature to help, but Avon quickly stops him. Claude reminds him that this is a system round, and they can't risk being spotted. Philomena scoffs, sarcastically thanking him for the plan to do absolutely nothing. Christopher finally calls Lily out on her constant negativity, but she fires back that they're the ones who leave the dirty work to her. The team can only watch as their fragile alliance begins to crack. Avon sees a vision of people helping each other amidst the flames. He reaches for his book, ready to create an illusion to save them. But Shakespeare appears, telling him fiction won't solve this problem. Avon panics, knowing they're about to lose this round, a loss that will surely mean their deaths. The bard tells him to inspire his team like he did with the scroll. He needs to give them hope, with maximum dramatic flair, of course. Philomena notes the team is as dysfunctional as she expected, but she takes the lead, calling on Brutus to get them to safety. She spots a lone figure in the distance, a civilian to be saved. Her body dissolves into a swarm of dark energy. She instantly warps to the civilian's side, grabbing his hand to pull him to safety. And in a flash, they're both gone. She reappears with the rescued man, leaving her team stunned. Lily can only stare, shocked that her new rival is actually useful. While Christopher cheers, finally seeing a path forward. Another civilian cries for help, trapped high above the flames. And Philomena's team warps through the chaos, pulling people to safety. Christopher and Claude reassure the survivors, a small beacon of hope. Shakespeare tells Avon that this is what drives people to act. And in that moment, something clicks for our boy. The team turns to him, waiting for their new leader's command. Avon finally steps up, ordering Alex to summon a rescue animal. The kid happily obliges, calling on his teddy bear for a mole. He tells Claude to use his shield to transport the injured, and tasks Lily with keeping watch for any enemy players. And with a flick of his quill, Avon gets to work. He tells his team it's time to look the part. And just like that, they're a unified rescue squad. They leap into action as a civilian runs from falling debris. Christopher smashes through the rubble, clearing a path. He lands hard, creating an opening in the chaos. He offers a hand, promising to lead her to safety. Elsewhere, Alex calls out to Philomena, another life saved. She thanks the kid, her power crackling with energy, and Avon stands over another survivor, mission accomplished. Claude calls out, announcing another successful rescue. Avon offers a word of praise for his friend's work. But as the sun sets, the ruined city is finally empty. Lily lands nearby, confirming their search is over. A system window confirms they've saved 46 survivors. A miracle, yes, but Avon wonders if it's enough to win. Suddenly, a new player appears behind him, weapon in hand. But Avon is lost in thought, analyzing potential sponsor powers. He snaps back to reality a second too late. As the stranger grabs him, a new threat emerging from the ruins. The stranger's weapon pierces straight through Avon's hand. He cries out as the man insists he only wants to disable him. He explains that he saw Avon using his sponsor's power, the tome. The man, Colin, gives him a simple, painful ultimatum. With little choice, our boy reluctantly agrees. Colin reveals he's a real EMT, unlike their little rescue squad. He points out the 46 survivors they've gathered, and explains how quickly that number will drop without proper medical care. Smoke inhalation will claim more lives, and broken bones will leave even more behind. He claims he can fix it all with the help of his sponsor, Hippocrates. He even offers to heal Avon's hand once the round is over. Just then, Christopher and Alex arrive asking what happened, but a new player rushes in, yelling at them to stay away from his brother. He stands guard, ordering Avon to stand down and drop his weapons, but Avon's command is also meant for Lily, who is already aiming her bow, clearly not liking this situation, but she reluctantly agrees to trust Avon's judgment. Just as Philomena appears, holding Colin hostage with a smirk. Seems like this little standoff just got a lot more complicated. Avon tells Philomena to stand down, explaining the situation. The brother smirks, declaring a temporary alliance has been formed. Hippocrates himself appears, offering to heal Avon's hand. Our boy looks down at the wound, still wary of the offer. The legendary physician channels his power into the injury. As a strange digital energy mends the flesh in an instant, Avon admits the man's power is undeniably effective. With the demonstration over, Colin tells them it's time to get to work. But Avon warns them their rescue mission has made them a target. Alex is already on it, summoning a scout to watch the skies. Alex's eagles soar over the ruined city, scouting for threats. But a new team of warriors on horseback is already on the move. Their leader's son accepts his orders without question. The legendary Genghis Khan sends his warriors into the fray. But Colin's brother has already spotted their approach. He warns his own teammate, who seems entirely unconcerned. The Khan calls his men to a halt, ready for a fight. The purple-eyed archer is the first to strike, letting an arrow fly, while Colin's brother charges forward, wreathed in dark power. The Khan roars in fury as his new opponent closes in for the kill. The Khan's blade meets a wall of shadow, his opponent vanishing. He orders his son Ogade to charge into the fray. The young warrior obeys, riding hard towards the enemy line. The archer warns Avon that one of the riders broke through. But Christopher is already there to meet him, weapon in hand. He slams a massive gong into the ground with a deafening crash, sending a ripple of sharp earth erupting towards the rider. The warrior's horse leaps over the trap undeterred. Guess that plan didn't quite work. Christopher grits his teeth and calls for backup from Alex, who summons a fiery beast ready to join the fight. Meanwhile, a sniper takes aim, preparing an old-school strategy. He plans to use fear to freeze his target in place, and his rifle will be the final, decisive blow. A single shot rings out across the battlefield. The Khan's son looks down, the shot finding its mark. He's struck down in an instant, a brutal end to his charge. The young warrior glitches out of existence, calling for his father, and Genghis Khan vows to repay the favor tenfold. He stands over a defeated Lily, his promise already in motion. Christopher can only scream her name in horror. Genghis Khan stands in silent fury, his rage palpable. Meanwhile, Colin's brother warns him about a critical detail. He explains that Hippocrates' healing powers are temporary, and once the round ends, they're on their own. A fact that puts Colin under immense pressure to work quickly. Back on the battlefield, the Khan clashes with his shadowy opponent. The legendary warrior swings with the force of an entire empire, but his attack is met by a strange, bladed shield. The brother holds his ground, a smirk on his face. He finds an opening and lands a devastating counterattack. The Khan's blade slices through the air, but his opponent dissolves into shadow, easily evading the strike. The legendary warrior can only curse this frustrating power. Can't hit what you can't see, my guy. Before the brother reappears, landing a solid blow, his eyes glow with a dark, focused intensity. The Khan braces himself as a new threat emerges from the shadows. A massive beast lunges forward with a furious roar. The fiery creature is ready to turn this fight into a mauling. The Khan can only stare in horror as it closes in, and its claws find their mark with brutal force. The shadow beast roars, wreathed in pure, untamed fire. Roosevelt looks down, declaring it's time to end this fight. He readies his rifle, the bayonet gleaming with intent. The former president lunges forward with surprising speed, but the Khan's champion blocks the strike with his own weapon. The two are locked in a furious, high-speed clash. Roosevelt smashes the rifle's stock into the warrior's chest and follows up with a brutal slash of his bayonet. But the president is wounded, his leg bleeding on the ground. A woman with a fire hose asks Alex where the survivors are. Guess the fire department finally showed up. The Khan's warrior looks up as the ground erupts around him. Another soldier stares in horror as something crashes down from above. Colin's brother appears, apologizing to Alex for crushing his teddy bear. Guess that's one way to make an entrance. Colin reports that all the survivors are now stable. A system window appears, counting down the final minute. Colin orders his brother to go and heal Lily immediately. The brother sprints through the alley, heading straight for the fight. He lunges forward, his arm wreathed in dark, chaotic energy. Appearing behind Genghis Khan in a flash of shadow, he meets the legendary warrior's attack head-on. The Khan unleashes his full power, a devastating blow aimed at his shadowy foe. But the brother isn't the target, sprinting past the attack with a desperate goal. Avon screams a warning, realizing the Khan's true intention. The blade pierces straight through Colin, the team's only medic. And with only 45 seconds left on the clock, the legendary warrior ends the life of their most crucial ally. The brother roars in pure, unadulterated rage. He slams his shield into the Khan with the force of a freight train. But the weapon cracks under the immense pressure. Guess that warranty just expired. And shatters into a million digital pieces, leaving him completely exposed. With his shield gone, the brother lands a furious, desperate punch. He stands over the legendary warrior, bloodied but unbowed. But his victory is hollow as he sees Avon lying motionless. And the clock is ticking down with less than 30 seconds left. Hippocrates appears, ready to heal our boy's fatal wound. He channels his power, telling Avon to hold on. But Avon's hand shoots up, stopping the legendary physician. He refuses the healing, telling him to save Lily instead. Hippocrates can only stare, a silent respect for the sacrifice. Guess he's not used to patients refusing treatment. With only 12 seconds left, a choice has been made. But Alex charges forward, teddy bear in hand. He stands before the legendary Genghis Khan himself, who cuts down his beloved companion without a second thought. The boy can only stare in horror at the damage, as his only link to his sponsor dissolves into nothing. The Khan turns his attention back to a fading Avon, but Colin's brother lands a furious, vengeful kick, pinning the legendary warrior to the ground. The Khan swings his blade with blinding speed, a look of pure annoyance on his face. The brother taunts the legendary warrior, meeting his strike. Their clash sends a shockwave of purple energy through the ruins, but the Khan stands guard over two of the rescued civilians. He lunges forward again, his fury unabated. Their blades meet in a deafening clang of steel. The Khan glares, demanding to know what's happening, but the brother just smirks as the final second ticks away. The system announces their third-place victory with 44 lives saved. He waves goodbye, wishing the Khan luck in the gauntlet, and the legendary warrior vows to find Lily and end her life. Hippocrates watches over the fallen Avon and Lily. The brother asks if his new allies will be okay. Colin explains they stopped the bleeding, but couldn't save Lily's eye. She'll recover, but Avon's fate hangs precariously in the balance. He gives urgent orders to save him, but Philomena has other plans. She holds a blade to Colin's throat, unhappy with their forced alliance, and dares him to do something about it. Guess she's not the forgiving type. A sudden, violent act shatters the tense moment, as Philomena makes a brutal, decisive move. Her new teammate can only scream in horror at the betrayal. Alex can only scream in horror at the betrayal, as Colin's body lies motionless on the ground. Hippocrates glares down, calling them all fools. Philomena smirks, mocking their failed attempt to join by force. She tells the fading sponsor that he's made a terrible mistake, but he leaves them with a chilling warning of the horrors to come. The brother confronts her, furious at her reckless decision. He points out that she just killed their only medic for no reason, but she coldly states that Colin wasn't helping them anyway, and reminds him that Hippocrates' healing was only temporary. She claims the medic was just bluffing, a liability they couldn't afford. The brother glares back, asking if that was reason enough to end him. Philomena retorts that she wasn't about to wait and find out. She dismisses them, exhausted from carrying the team. A real team player, this one. The scene shifts to a massive empty stadium at night, where Lily, now with an eye patch, draws her bow with renewed focus. She lets an arrow fly, a blur of motion and power. The shot strikes the target dead center. She admits that her new injury will take some getting used to. Elsewhere, Christopher asks about the reward for their hard-fought victory. He figures their only reward is not being sent back to the gauntlet. Philomena, meanwhile, is just happy to finally get a shower. She asks about the brother of the medic she just took out, a question that is met with a very blunt, unhelpful answer. Elsewhere, Avon lies in bed, recovering from his near-fatal wound. He closes his eyes, finding a rare moment of peace. But his mind drifts to a different place, a spotlight on an empty stage. A green-eyed man opens his eyes, a memory taking shape. He finds himself standing in the ruins of a familiar place. Recalling the day his theater burned to the ground during a performance, he tells Avon the scene looked just like this. Shakespeare suggests that this is a fine place for his story to end. But even in this dream, Avon is already analyzing the game. He asks about Shakespeare's legacy, which the bard confirms is the greatest. Of course it is. Avon asks how often this death game takes place, and learns that the powers of the sponsors never change. A slow, confident grin spreads across our boy's face. He declares that this is not where his story will end. He's going to be the one to bring the final curtain down on the system Royale itself. And back in reality, Avon rests, a new resolve burning within him. Avon jolts awake with a sharp gasp. He clutches his bandaged chest, admitting he was hit hard. But he's relieved Hippocrates managed to save him. Suddenly, a glowing envelope materializes before him. It's a private message, meant only for team leaders. A new fire of determination lights up in his eyes. Just then, Claude appears in the doorway to check on him. He's glad Avon is okay, but reveals Lily lost an eye in the fight. Avon asks about Claude's own condition, but his friend is just annoyed that Avon is already obsessing over the next round. He tells Avon the team was worried he wouldn't wake up, but Avon just fires back, mocking Claude's own recklessness. A response that leaves Claude completely exasperated, but he insists he's not going to quit no matter what. Avon asks if Claude really thinks he can just save his life like that. Claude mentions a lesson Achilles taught him, but the name is lost on Avon. He's shocked Avon doesn't remember the story from the Iliad, a real literary tragedy. He explains it's because Achilles used up so much of his power. A memory of the legendary warrior screaming for his fallen friend, Patroclus. A story of how his closest companion fought and died in his place. But through his friend's ultimate sacrifice, the legendary warrior was able to win the war. Claude admits he'd rather be the loyal friend than the famous hero. He can only imagine what they could have accomplished together. Just then, the rest of the team enters the room. Philomena is glad no one else was hurt, as Claude recounts Avon's close call. Avon turns to Lily, apologizing for the plan that led to her injury. But she coldly states that it was bound to happen eventually. He then praises Alex for his growth and impressive performance. And finally, he calls Philomena the MVP, despite her questionable methods. She seems to get that a lot. Avon announces he has one last piece of news for them. He explains the message was for team leaders only, and reveals that after this round, all teams will be disbanded, a twist that leaves Alex completely shocked. Lily calmly assumes the gauntlet culled enough players to warrant it, but Claude reassures Avon that he's sticking by his side. Philomena smirks, already negotiating her spot on the next team. Avon confirms their plan is still on, asking if they're all in. The system announces their next challenge, a 3-day camping trip from hell. The team stands together, ready for the wilderness. The team is transported to a dense, unfamiliar forest. Lily notes that since they're far from the city, every team will be just as lost. Avon takes the lead, telling them to find a place to make camp, and so they venture deeper into the woods, following their new leader. Christopher encourages a nervous Alex to keep moving for their own safety. As the sun begins to set, the need for shelter becomes urgent. Claude finds a suitable clearing, declaring it will be their camp for the night. Avon assigns Alex and Lily to help him set up and find food, while Christopher and Philomena are tasked with scouting the perimeter, much to Claude's surprise. Avon explains his logic, wisely keeping his two most volatile members apart. A new voice from the darkness compliments their impressive setup. Avon gives the credit to Lily as Roosevelt steps into the firelight. The former president warns them to keep the fire low, holding a new captive. Lily confirms they're taking turns keeping watch over the camp, and that Alex's fiery beasts are providing extra security. Roosevelt praises them for finally acting like a team, but Avon reminds him it's temporary, a fact the legendary hunter seems to find disappointing. Elsewhere, Christopher and Philomena scout the perimeter, finding nothing. He's getting impatient, but she tells him to calm down, warning him that his paranoia is only going to wear him out. But a sudden sound puts Christopher on high alert. He and Philomena brace for an attack, ready for a fight. She whispers that they'll strike whatever comes out of the bushes, but their deadly opponent turns out to be a simple fox. Philomena sarcastically congratulates him on almost getting rabies. The creature darts away, seemingly harmless, until it's suddenly struck by a blast of red energy. The fox glitches and dissolves into nothing. Christopher realizes they were almost vaporized themselves, and the two wisely decide to find another way around. Christopher leads Philomena through the bushes, certain he saw something. They emerge from the foliage, their expressions shifting to shock. Christopher can only stare, completely stunned by what he sees. A massive castle looms in the distance, a sponsor's power made manifest. Some people get all the cool powers. Knowing they're outmatched, they decide it's time to retreat. The two scouts make their way back through the moonlit forest, but they're suddenly ambushed by a group of armed men. The pair freezes, caught completely off guard. They raise their hands, warned not to make a single move. A new player with a shotgun orders them to drop their weapons. Christopher drops his weapons, asking them to cut to the chase. Philomena glares back, daring them to just shoot her already, but their captor smirks, realizing they must have a team nearby. Philomena confirms her sponsor is too far away to help them escape. The man announces they'll be used as bait for the rest of their team. Christopher tries to buy time, asking about their sponsors. The blonde captor just scoffs, confident in his own legendary backer. Suddenly, a new player in a fedora appears, thanking them for the easy ambush. He gets uncomfortably close to Philomena, a predatory glint in his eye, and laments that she won't be making it out of this alive. Classy. But a glowing arrow suddenly cuts through the air. It finds its mark, striking the fedora-wearing man down. The blonde captor can only stare in disbelief as one of Alex's fiery beasts lunges from the shadows. Christopher seizes the opening, taking a hostage of his own. A single shot rings out and the captor falls. Roosevelt takes aim, asking how that is for dispensing justice. The rest of the team arrives, explaining they saw the ambush coming. Christopher asks if he was just left here as bait. The answer seems pretty obvious, my guy. Avon simply confirms that they knew all along. Avon explains it was a calculated risk, a trap within a trap. But Claude is furious, accusing him of gambling with their lives. Avon insists it's the only way they'll survive. Lily interrupts the tension by offering up dinner. You're welcome, I guess. Christopher confirms that the massive castle is definitely a sponsor's power. Avon forms a new plan, telling Alex to lead them at midnight. And so, the uneasy alliance ventures deeper into the moonlit woods. Claude points them towards the edge of the forest. They hide in the bushes, spotting movement from the castle. A lone woman in a gown steps out into the clearing, and a familiar, furious face emerges on horseback. Genghis Khan himself meets with the woman in the clearing. He gives the order to move once she's back inside. The moment the gate closes, Avon gives the signal, and the team sprints across the field, straight for the castle. Christopher asks how they'll scale the wall, suggesting they reuse the rope from Philomena's recruitment. But Avon has a better idea, turning to Alex for a solution, who summons a fiery mountain goat to scale the sheer stone wall. Once inside, Avon tells Alex and Lily to stand guard. He pulls Philomena aside, entrusting her with a quiet, deadly mission. Philomena accepts her mission with a confident smirk. She stalks through the castle's grand, empty halls. Peeking around a corner, she finds her target. The woman from the clearing lies asleep, completely unaware. Outside, Roosevelt keeps watch from the shadows, rifle at the ready. But a knight in shining armor suddenly appears, challenging him. The former president turns to face his new opponent, and a single deafening shot rings out through the night. But it wasn't aimed at the knight, as Philomena deflects the bullet just in time. Looks like someone's playing both sides. Elsewhere, Alex walks with Lily, asking her a question. He asks if she feels the need to protect him during their fights. She begins to answer, but he quickly apologizes for the question. Lily explains that to her, they're all kids, and it's her job to watch their backs. Alex is stunned, asking if that means he's not a burden. She admits that while everyone is a burden in some way, he and his pets are useful. With a rare smile, she tells him to hurry up so they don't fall behind. The boy happily calls out for her to wait for him. A truly heartwarming moment in this death game. Back inside the castle, Alex holds his glitching teddy bear aloft. A massive fiery bird erupts from the toy, soaring into the night sky. It swoops down, attacking the knight who is facing Roosevelt. The fiery beast's claws rake across the knight's face. He glares up at Roosevelt, a rifle aimed at his head. The knight stomps the ground with incredible force, sending the former president flying back. But the fiery bird swoops in for another attack. The knight blocks the assault with a swing of his sword. He declares that no one can best Sir Lancelot, the legendary Castellan of Joyeuse Garde. Well, that's a name drop. Elsewhere, Philomena stands over her sleeping target, dagger poised, as Roosevelt's shot finally rings out through the night. But her target's eyes snap open, realizing the danger. The woman's hand shoots up, stopping the blade just in time. She lands a solid blow, sending Philomena stumbling back, and stands to face her, daring her to try again. Philomena recovers, lunging forward with a furious glare. The two women circle each other in the moonlit room. Her opponent grabs her wrist, twisting with surprising strength, and forces the dagger from Philomena's grasp. She reaches for her fallen weapon, desperate to regain the advantage. But the woman shoves her back, sending the dagger flying. The woman lands a powerful blow to Philomena's chest, sending her stumbling back from the force. She mocks Philomena's reliance on her weapon, daring her to fight without her usual advantage. Philomena is sent crashing through a nearby wall, but she scrambles back to her feet, reaching for her dagger, only to find her opponent has already claimed it for herself. Finders keepers, I guess. Philomena glares up, daring the woman to strike her down. The woman hesitates, considering the challenge, but instead, she turns the blade on her own arm and drives the blade straight through her own hand. She calls Philomena a fool, her power crackling around her. A swarm of dark leaves erupts from the wound, a strange and deadly power. And just like that, Philomena finds herself back in the forest. She curses, realizing she's been played completely. But a confident smirk quickly returns to her face, until a sudden heart-pounding sound puts her on high alert. As Genghis Khan himself charges straight for her, she sprints through the trees, a desperate race for her life, realizing with horror that her escape power won't work. Genghis Khan charges, certain she'll be cut down. But Philomena grits her teeth, refusing to be an easy target. She dodges a deadly strike from the legendary warrior and continues her desperate sprint through the woods. Her eyes are fixed on the castle, her only sanctuary. She knows it's her one and only chance to survive. Elsewhere, Lancelot unleashes a powerful swing, but Christopher is there, blocking the blow with his shield. Roosevelt thanks the young man for the timely save, and Christopher smirks, confident in their combined strength. Roosevelt takes aim, ready to end this. His shot meets the knight's blade in a deafening blast. Elsewhere, Avon thinks his team has it covered, until he realizes that Alex is nowhere to be found. A sudden dread fills him as he turns to search. He steps into a room, finding a grim scene on the floor. He kneels down, wondering whose blood this is, when suddenly he's grabbed from behind. A hand clamps over his mouth, silencing his cry, and a familiar voice tells him to be quiet. It's the woman from the castle, holding Avon tight. She lets him go, mocking him for getting caught. But a dark power suddenly erupts from the ground below, and Avon realizes with horror what's about to happen. Elsewhere, a wounded Lancelot tells his foes their fight is over. He stands on the glitching wall, admitting it was a good battle, and warns them to flee before the castle takes them down with it. A very noble way to lose. Meanwhile, Philomena is still running for her life. With Genghis Khan hot on her heels, Avon watches as the crumbling wall separates him from his team. The woman's eyes burn with a strange intensity. The rest of the team regroups, carrying a wounded Alex. They stand together, a grim and unified front. Genghis Khan's hand tightens on his weapon. He declares that since they took one of his, he'll take one of theirs. But he offers a day's grace for them to bury their friend. And with that cold promise, the legendary warrior rides away. Alex grits his teeth in pain, his injuries severe. The team can only watch as their youngest member fades. With his last breath, he calls out to his friends. Alex looks up to his teammates, wishing he could be like them. Christopher reassures him that he and Teddy were incredible. The boy turns to Lily, hoping he was useful enough. She can only look on, her own pain hidden behind a stoic gaze. With his last bit of strength, he reaches for Avon. He tells him he believes in his plan to end this twisted game, and Avon promises he'll see it through, for him. Roosevelt appears, comforting the boy in his final moments. Alex apologizes for not being able to win, but the former president promises that he will always be remembered. A small memorial stands for their fallen friend. Philomena explains the Khans saw Alex's youth and took pity, granting them a brief truce to bury their teammate, Avon analyzes the threat, recalling the Khan's simple powers. But Philomena reminds him that simple was almost enough to end him. With a new resolve, Avon announces he has a plan. Just as the sound of an approaching horse breaks the silence, the Khan arrives, but he's brought a new flute-playing friend. Philomena recognizes him instantly, much to her own dismay. He's the same guy who was hitting on Lily back at the bar. Small world, even in a death game. The flute player gives the order for the Khan to charge, and the legendary warrior spurs his horse into action. He swings his massive blade, rushing towards the team. But Avon is already a step ahead, calling for Philomena. The two women stand together, their powers activating in unison. Genghis Khan continues his relentless charge across the field. His new Roman ally watches the chaos unfold. Lily takes aim, her arrow glowing with deadly intent, and unleashes a massive fiery explosion across the battlefield. The flute player is stunned, wondering where the Khan just went. Claude and Philomena charge through the smoke. But a new challenger with a club steps up to the plate. He brings his weapon down with a powerful swing, but Philomena is already there with a counterattack. And Claude follows up with a solid shield bash to the face, sending the new guy stumbling back to the ground. Guess he struck out. Philomena stands over him, her power swirling ominously. As Avon and the Roman ally step out of the shadows, Avon introduces himself and his legendary sponsor, and offers the defeated player a proposal he can't refuse. A system window announces their survival of the wilderness. Elsewhere, Lily takes a quiet moment in a gallery. A woman approaches, asking to join her. She praises Lily for her progress, revealing herself as Mulan. Meanwhile, Avon looks out over the city lights. He tells his new Roman ally to relax for a moment, and Claude sits alone, a quiet intensity in his eyes. He tells Achilles he's been managing with his sponsor's remaining power, but the legendary warrior roars that he has no power left. Claude smirks, revealing that all of it now belongs to him. Shakespeare asks if Avon is ready to finally be remembered, but Avon corrects him, saying it's the bard's legacy on the line. For him, ending this game is not a prize, but a responsibility. A debt he owes to everyone who has died in this game. And most of all, a debt he owes to Alex. He knows they've all done terrible things to survive. He introduces a new ally, Lance, admitting no single player is the villain, because the true enemy has always been the system itself.